Hello, guys, and welcome to the season preview of another UDL season. And I hope you're as excited about the coming season as I am. I have been on a short vacation last week. We saw some bears. I can upload a video later. They were right next to the car. It was one of the more exciting things uh, I what that happened to me over the last few months, and now we're going back into swing of things, and hockey season is almost underway. So, without further distractions, let's get to the presentation as it's going to be a long video as usually. The season preview, I don't know. I hope I don't hit an hour, but maybe 45 minutes. I will put stamps below to the different teams and divisions so you can easily jump to your team if you don't have time for the whole video at once. And before we go to the teams and the divisions, first I think I've discussed this in the previous videos, but let's just shortly talk about what's behind these rankings. Basically, I'm using projections for the season from four different sources. Three of them are sources from the internet where I have bought the projections from different sites. And I also do my own projections, so to say, based on players who have at least a full season of NHL stats. So I have a model is a little bit flattering to say what I do, but anyway, I've I cannot tell which one is the most correct, but I do some blend of all the projections to come up with an weighted projections for each player, and basically I've summed up the stats for each player. Of course, where the stats are ratios, they are weighted averages like the goalies and the face-off percentages. And based on these stats, I've made Roto style rankings for each category. And for the team totals, they are done based on the best 23-man rosters as of today. Which means, for example, if you use three goalies, this means three goalies and 20 skaters. If you use two goalies and 21 skaters. If, for example, you have a skater on a non-droppable contract, uh, it's always included in the stats, even if, for example, you have a farm player that projects to have better stats. But since the farm player is not bound to a roster spot, then the farm player is not counted if the farm player is an extra, so to say. And then the star ratings are based on the relative strength versus the whole league. So the 5-star rating means that this is the top of the league, and the 1-star means is the uh, least in compared to the other teams. Of course, with all projections, basically everything can go wrong. But mostly, uh, for me, goalies, rookies, injuries, trades in this order are the things that impact the projections the most. Especially the goalies are so difficult to forecast. So the goalie rank ratings and can be wildly wrong. And rookies are also harder to predict, and of course, injuries goes without saying. So with that said, we know based the framework now with what we'll be looking at. We'll start with the Patrick division, and the teams in the divisions are ranked according to the relative strength according to the rankings that I described as a methodology. So we start with the Patrick, and the top team that I project or do according to the projections are the Brooklyn Aces. I think the team for Mike is coming along nicely. They have some superstar players like Pasternak and McAvoy and Heiskanen. They have a couple of homegrown goalies, which is a big boon to them. And if Skinner is the starter for Edmonton again, these are the starters for two of the best teams in the West. So that's why they have a very high goaltending rating. And also they have a young core that is coming together quite well with the likes of Bodie, Lundell, Villardi, and on the top right hand of each team, this time I'm not doing a verdict in terms of who is a contender or who is making the playoffs or not. What I put here in black is always on one open question about the team, and in green are the rookies to watch for the coming season. And the question for the Aces is the status of Patrick Kane, because he's on an 8.5 million contract and is basically in the air because he's not signed, not retired, and he's not eligible for injured reserve. So the Mike is currently stuck with Kane, but I don't think he's in cap a big cap trouble. So he, I think, can wait out the whole Kane situation and maybe get him back as a boost later in the season. And also, you see the list of rookies to watch is quite impressive for Brooklyn, with Cooley and Harley and potentially Simon Nemeth. Maybe Nemeth doesn't crack the Devils roster. I have fucking issues with this word. However, moving on. So Nemeth probably doesn't make it this season, but still he's another top prospect for the Aces. I think I will not talk that much about each team. I stopped for the Aces to describe the structure of the bubbles for each team. But I think the Aces are coming along nicely, and this year they should be among the better teams. Next in the Patrick, I think are the Lumberjacks and Kevin. They have the big acquisition of the auction with Austin Matthews, or one of the bigger. The blue names here on the list means that these are players that were acquired in the last auction. And you see the Lumberjacks traditionally are a very gritty team, hard to play against, and they are, I think, the only team, if I'm not mistaken, with 5-star goaltending rating with Shestyorkin and Andersen, which, of course, there is only the slight question with Andersen's health, but if he's healthy and starts most of the game, Carolina and the Rangers should provide solid stats all around for the Lumberjacks. And as always, I slightly uh, rank slightly higher teams that only use two goaltenders to get their stats. So I think Kevin is quite set. His despite getting Matthews, his scoring isn't impressive, and the depth could be improved, especially on the defense, because you see here if Giordano qualifies as the third best defenseman, this doesn't speak at this stage of Giordano's career doesn't speak well for the Lumberjacks defense, especially in the production. But power is solid and should continue to get better. And on the rookie front, you have Shane Wright and Brock Faber that should be contributors as early as this season, and potentially, especially for Faber, I think he could play quite a significant role for his NHL team already this season. But the Lumberjacks are in the mix as always. Next, we have the current champions, the Ramparts. The Ramparts are still a strong team, but I think they have they have lost a bit uh, with, of course, losing Dreisaitl, not losing, but trading away Dreisaitl. They replaced him with another max contract with Mikko Rantanen, and now they are heavily in on the on the Avalanche, as they have max salaries for McKinnon and Rantanen. They also got Ovechkin, uh, who should still be a very solid contributor for our scoring system. And they they got Barry and Schultz on the back end, but still, it's the back end is definitely not very impressive. As is the goaltending part. It's if Samsonov is healthy and he should get the lion's share of starts in Toronto, I think the Ramparts will be good. But Samsonov is not really the healthiest of goalies, or hasn't been so far, and it's a big risk with only Wedgwood and potentially Peterson. I think Vince has also a couple of other goalies in the mix, but it's heavily dependent on what Samsonov does and how healthy he is throughout the season. The next team are the Wanderers, and this is year one of the post Matthews era. So they lost their franchise player in the auction, and didn't or haven't replaced him, or will try to replace him by a committee. Barbashev was their main acquisition in the auction in terms of forwards, and they added Klingberg, so they have now the both potential Maple Leafs power play quarterbacks with Riley and Klingberg, so they are set. Uh, and the goaltending is actually, I think, a little bit better than last season, especially if the Senators are good in the NHL, the Wanderers will be good in the UDL. So they are heavily dependent on the Ottawa goaltending. And in terms of rookies, it was hard because the Wanderers have been basically mostly all in over the last couple of seasons, so they don't have a lot of prospects coming up. So I've put Henry Tron maybe because the San Jose Sharks are actually so bad that he could make the team and potentially even land a power play job. So he could be a rookie to watch for them. And for the Ramparts, I forgot to mention about the rookies, but you saw it. It's Forster and also Joe Hofer, because you never know with Binnington, and playing behind Binnington could be a good position. And last in the Patrick are the Blazers. Uh, the Blazers have, like, Stützle is a superstar, uh, but apart from him, John Carlson is basically slowing down. The I think the somehow the problem with the Blazers is that the young core that Greg has isn't developing as good or as fast as he would hope, especially with guys like Line. He never turned into the superstar he was projected, and also the goaltending picture is quite murky, with potentially looking at three backups, especially with Thompson. He was the starter to begin last season, but now that Aiden Hill was the goalie that brought Vegas the cup, I expect that he will get most of the starts. So currently, the Blazers are looking at not a couple, but a handful of backups, including Joey Daccord, who is a wild card and could potentially be their best goaltender this season if Grubauer doesn't play well. And also Perunovic is another rookie to watch, who is coming back from an injury-riddled season, but I think he still has high-end potential. But for Greg, it will be important for his young players to keep developing and develop actually like Stützle. He would hope everyone develops like Stützle. So next we look at the Adams, and the projected top team in the Adams are the Hamilton Tigers. It is a quite a veteran team. We have the camp has some nice young players like Suzuki, but and Mercer. But mostly veteran team, quite a well balanced team. I like very much their D because it's very balanced. So you don't have a reliance on a single player, but they have a number of players that contribute. And the overall the scoring is coming from a lot of players. So this is not a top heavy team. The question mark for me here is only the goaltending. With I have put here the question, and actually it's a more of a statement or a exclamation here that I don't think Cam planned for this, but he now has all the potential backup goalies for the Vancouver Canucks. He has the Smith, he has Silovs, and he has Spencer Martin. So whoever wins the backup job in Vancouver, the Tigers have it covered. Although it's not the most juiciest of jobs, still it's something that I found quite amusing. In terms of rookies, being a veteran team, the Tigers don't have a ton of high-end rookies, so I put a pair of Jets here with Henola and Chibrikov. Both of them are not like Calder level rookies, but just potentially someone who could crack the roster and make impact this season. And the next, I have the Jackalopes. The overall here, the division. I think the next teams. I think there is a slight gap between the Tigers and the other teams, but the other teams are all in the mix. You see here for the Odessa team, they have a bunch of players injured at the moment, especially the dynamic duo of Egbat and Montour for the Florida team. They will start the season injured, but I think after they come back, this is a quite strong team for Max. He has also a couple of rookies here. The names in green means players on farm contracts still. They are not technically rookies, but Coronato is, and Max already told about his bet on the chat. But I think really it's quite a solid bet, and Coronato is looking very impressive and should be a top contributor, both or a good contributor both in the NHL and for the Jackalopes as early as this season. And also I've put Afanasiev as someone who could earn a spot in Nashville. Nashville is in a bit of a kind of a rebuild, so there could be open spots there. But the big question is definitely the goaltending situation. Odessa is another team that starts or goes into the season without a single NHL starter on their team, and Francouz is already injured. They also have Drieger, but it's not clear if he will even make the NHL team in Seattle. So, and they have also Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who might be their best young goaltender, but it's also not clear if he will get an NHL seat this season in Buffalo. So the picture is really interesting, and with 1.5 star rating, I think this is among the lowest, definitely among the lowest in the league. So Max will figure or have to figure out the goaltending picture on the fly. Spencer Knight's having a bounce back season could make this situation a lot easier or brighter. Next are the scouts. Oh, I don't see the star ratings. Maybe they'll come up. Oh yeah, they'll come up with the next. Okay. Anyway, but the scouts are a team that I would say is in a bit of a steady decline since moving or since the after the dry cycle era ended. They are still a solid team. They have some good um, acquisitions at the auction. Eric Carlson returns via the auction again, but can he do an encore? So how good will he be in Pittsburgh? And now that he's paid actually double what he was paid last season, and I hope for Andrew's sake that his production isn't half of what it was last season, but it will depend a lot on his health. Uh, this the goaltending for the Scouts is pretty good, especially if Boston doesn't fall back too much from last season and Umar gets the most of the starts. He should get excellent ratios for the Scouts. So they are again a strong team, but I think uh, they have lost a bit of scoring punch, and also they don't have a lot of young players, especially as rookies expected this season. I've put here Owen Beck and Matthew Phillips, but both of them are quite long shots to actually even make their NHL team. So this could be a season that we have no rookies coming in for the scouts. Next, and you see here the star ratings for the scouts. I messed up the animations or something. For the Sour Bears, they are another up and coming team, but they are quite a soft team in terms of how they're built up. So they lack in most of the grid categories, and in the grid categories, the face-off percentage is also included. They got Panarin at the auction, which is okay, but the looming question here is the Zegras and Drysdale situation in Anaheim, because both players are on the Sour Bears. So the Will has tied himself closely to the Ducks, not only with Zegras and Drysdale, but Gibson is also here, which is quite a detriment for his goaltending rating. Because even if Demko has a bounce back and Vancouver has a bounce back, Gibson has been a torpedo for the goaltending ratios in the last like 3 or 4, 5 seasons. I still think Gibson is a good goaltender, but if he gets traded, potentially it could be a great bonus for the Sour Bears. But it's the rookies here. It's again another connection to the Ducks with Zellweger here. He could actually benefit from a Drysdale holdout and get a potentially major look for Anaheim as early as this season or the start of the season. And Matthew Nice is, I think, pretty much guaranteed to have a spot for the Leafs. And the Upper Canada Patriots are the final team of the in the Adams division. For me, this I didn't uh, see it before I started doing this, but Jeremy has collected a lot of picks, and he's doing a retool or rebuild. It's not like announced, but I think he's in he has still quite good players. For example, you see Jason Robertson and Hintz and Huberdeau, especially Robertson is a superstar in the league, and also some players that are due for a bounce back. So that's why I put the question here: rebuild or rebound? Because if all of Huberdeau and Connor Brown and Kuznetsov and all the more veteran players rebound, and Devon Levi wins the job in Buffalo. The only downside is that they have basically no scoring from the back end apart from Jake Sanderson. So they are only a tough team. I think the Patriots ranked first in block shots. So they basically have a decor that's dedicated to blocking shots. As you see, Larson and Lukshin here were acquisitions at the auction. I think the Patriots are really hard to predict him, but it seems that Jeremy is doing some kind of a retool with the picks he's collected. But also he has some core pieces that are there for, like, Hellebuck was signed now. I should have painted him also like blue from the auction. He was signed to a long-term deal with this auction. So he has some good pieces and just needs more scoring punch, I think. And you see here the list of rookies is quite impressive. And maybe not all of them are top contributors this season, but they should be soon enough. I think there were a couple of others even that I didn't make here the list due to space restrictions. But the Patriots are a team that's having quite a few uh, young players and some picks coming up in the next few drafts. So they should be good in the future. Next, we look at the Smythe. Uh, this I will see in a few minutes. What's the team here? But I think the top team in our division will be the Turtles this season, and this I would say maybe one of the two best rounded teams in the league this season. They didn't lose any major pieces. They got Draisaitl in a huge trade with salary retention. Yes, they gave up half the farm for him, but it's the question mark here is obviously if the Draisaitl deal puts them over the top in terms of winning either in the regular season or in the regular season in the playoffs. Elliott will definitely be hoping for both. But they have an amazing young combination of homegrown goalies. They have a balanced offense, and they have a team that's basically most of the players are well-rounded contributors like Bertuzzi, JT Miller, the recently signed Yossi Zaider. A lot of the players here, it's a team of Elliott's management to get multi-category players, and it's no different this season. Just that it's boosted by more scoring and star power, and they will be, I think, the team to beat in our division and one of the top teams in the league. In terms of rookies, they have Dylan Holloway and Nick Robertson. Nick Robertson is like already, I think, the third season that he's expected to be a big contributor for the Leafs, and he, I think, got overtaken this spring by Matthew Nice. But he's still there, could potentially crack the team in for the Leafs. Next, we have the Royals, who are bumped down to second spot in the division from last season. They lost some scoring depth. They no longer have Rantanen, Eichel. McDavid is back on a max salary, but the question is whether what I have written here is it now a one-man show? Here, as you can see, on the forward side, the scoring depth uh, isn't really amazing. It's still there, and the team is still tough and still Oiler dependent with Campbell and Bouchard and Evander Kane all here, apart from McJesus. But this is now a team that's more tough than a scoring threat, and the goaltending will depend a lot on how many starts Hugh and Campbell both get. Because if they get most of the stars for their teams, they should be quite good. Because Edmonton and Vegas project to be top teams in the league. And in terms of rookies, I just said no. I didn't see a single impact rookie that's coming up for the Royals. So basically, that's not a surprise given that they have to harvest. They had to harvest the RFA years of McDavid with trading for more help for the current team. So it's normal that the Royals then don't have a ton of rookies and top prospects coming up. But it's a transition season definitely for Luke. In year one of McDavid's max deal, we'll see how it goes. And now we go into the mushy part of the division, starting with my team, which is, I think, for fourth year in running, the projections put my team in exactly mediocre territory, which is why the question for my team is, am I still resisting a full rebuild? And the answer for you is yes, still, but maybe not for long, for anyone who already acquired about Dalin. What to say about my team? You see a lot of blue here, a lot of acquisitions from the auction. If most of them work, my team will be very tough. Here we have two of the three teams with 5-star ratings about in the grids categories. Uh, the my team has quite a few good bangers, not a lot of top scorers, and the defense after Dalin is nothing to write home about, and the goaltending is basically a freaking wild card. I potentially have three backups or three starters, and I don't know what I have, and I don't know when we'll see that. Maybe, hopefully, I have an idea by November if this will work or not, and then we'll go from there. But I'm right now stuck in the middle. Close to my team in the middle are the Mighty Camels, which are according to the projections, the least talented offensive team in the league. They ranked, I think, dead last in mm, five of the six scoring categories. So basically, goals, assists, two goals plus assists naturally, shots on goal, and special team points. They were dead last in all of these five categories, and they were first in the league in penalty minutes and hits, in projected penalty minutes and hits. So that's why I dubbed them the Phantom Goon Squad here, because you looking at their names on the roster, you don't think about them, but they have guys like Gudas, and also in the bottom six of their forwards, they have some other tough guys. So expect the Mighty Camels to be no pushovers and to make you pay for your wins by taking a thief or two or an eye for your trouble. They have a great goaltending potential, especially Vanecek solidifies his spot as the Devil starter, and with Vasilevsky, it's a 1-2 punch that might be unrivaled in terms of potential, because I think the Devils mm, the, are for real and will be a strong team for the next uh, foreseeable future, let's say. But it is impressive how bad the projections look for Clint in terms of offensive production. In terms of rookies, he has Marco Rossi, sorry, and Holtz coming up. And if they both break out, that could definitely help his scoring punch. And yeah, the Mighty Camels could turn it around, but they definitely need a lot more, especially on the back end, the defensive side, especially in terms of scoring, is like brutal there. And the Citadels are the last team in the Smite division. The Citadels are definitely on their way to building up their team, and they're making progress. But there is still a ways to go, especially in terms of scoring. They have some good grid guys, and Brady Tkachuk is a superstar in our format. They added Iho is in this auction, but the defense is still very very far from being relevant. Luke Hughes should improve things and start shepherding or leading the defense for the Citadels from this season. And the question here, I don't know if you have looked at Drew's farm, goalie farm, but how many goalies? Yes, it's a lot, and some of them have to pan out, right? Right? Like he has now three goalies under contract, and two of them are stat killers. With especially Mrazek, I think this season will be another one to not look at his stats. But if Markson bounces back, this could bode well for the Citadels, and he could have some good weeks on the goaltending front. Uh, so moving on to the last division, and in it wasn't I think intentionally, but I think it's definitely the best is saved for last, as I project that this will be another very strong season for the Norris. All the teams here, if we exclude head-to-head matchups and the randomness of the head-to-head matchups, and that the fact that the Norris will most likely cannibalize itself because of the divisional matchups. All of these teams are playoff teams for me in terms of, or not okay, not we not say playoff, but I think they are top half teams in Roto rankings. But we'll start with the Grizzly Allens, who I project to be by a hair, the top team projected in the division. And is this the coming of age season for Wolfsburg? James has stockpiled talent and developed and grown his team patiently for like 6 years already, and most of his team is homegrown. And Kaprizov, Makar, Hughes, Saros. Saros is not homegrown, but it's a superstar. It's a really solid team. One of the two five-star scoring teams. You see briefly which is the other one. But the Grizzly Allens are impressive. They have a ton of depth everywhere. The slight question mark might be how good or bad is Carter Hart. Uh, Playing in Philly, they could be in for another long season. So he could be a stat killer for the goaltending, but if he potentially gets traded in the NHL, phew, then the Grizzly Allens might be really difficult to stop. But they are not far ahead of the EHC Red Bull team and Brad. So the Red Bull guys are the other team with a five-star scoring rating, and their offense is also very balanced. They didn't lose a single key piece from last season. They only added Josh Morrissey, which is quite impressive. So they have been to the last two uh, finals in the playoffs in the UDL. One time they won, one time they lost. But they're definitely going back for another goal. And they're one of the top, I think, three, mostly four teams that are in this elite tier in terms of contending status this season. They are very well balanced. I think, like with the Grizzly Allens, the only question is the goaltending, because they potentially have two stat killers on their team in Merzlikins if he doesn't bounce back, or if Columbus doesn't bounce back, and Blackwood, who is now on the Sharks, which I expect to be basically the worst team we've seen in a decade. So yeah, stay away. Uh, Apart from this, I don't have anything to say other that the Red Bull team will be a machine. And in terms of rookies, they have another older Russian rookie coming in, Voronkov, like they had last year with Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko was definitely a hit. We'll see if Voronkov is similar. And the big guy, Elmer Soderblom, he still qualifies as a rookie because he didn't play a ton of games last season. So he could still be interesting to watch. Next are the Ice Dice, dropping from projected top team and top team in over the last few seasons to the third place, but still not far. And again, a very, very balanced team. I like what the Ice Dice have. Um, they actually, I think, toughen up a bit because they are the third and last team we see here with a 5-star grit rating, coupled with the the goon squads in the Smite division. But they are also very solid in terms of scoring. And the drawback here on the goaltending stats, uh, this rating on the goaltending could easily be a lot higher, but based on the stats of Bobrovsky and Binnington over the last couple of seasons, not including Bobrovsky's playoff run, they don't look very impressive. Maybe their names sound better than their stats, but we'll see what we get with them. Basically, if the goaltending is better than ranked here, the Ice Dice could easily still be top of the division and among the top of the league again, because they haven't lost major pieces and they're a very well rounded team. Next, we have the Millionaires. Again, this all teams here are very strong, but the Millionaires are, I think, just slightly behind the top three teams in the division. But it will depend a lot of how good the rookies are, because famously or infamously, depending on how you look at it, Jay got both Bedard and Fantilli in this draft. Bedard is here listed already among the key players, and Fantilli is in the rookies to watch with Connor Zary. But yeah, it will. How far the Millionaires go this season, I think, will depend largely on those two rookies, and also the goaltending is a bit of a question mark. It's definitely expensive. Oh, and that's what I can say for sure. And if they can do the job for Jake, yeah, good for him. We'll see how it goes. And the last team, also in the division and among all teams, are the Oilers. And Cape Breton team is another up and coming team. They basically started the rebuild together with Wolfsburg, and Wolfsburg seems a few steps ahead. But the Oilers are also coming along. They have good young players, and you see here in blue they made quite a few major acquisitions in the auction. I think the Ajax D core might be the deepest in the league. You see here the three names on the top, but he also has Colton Parayko and Justin Falk and upcoming rookies like Edmondson and Pavel Mintyukov. So he, I think, has, especially on the D side, he has things covered. Also, Sorokin is an ace, absolute ace, in terms of goaltending, and he has bet on the Detroit Red Wings in terms of goaltending for this season with the Husso-Reimer tandem. So if Detroit is good, the Oilers, I think, will have excellent goaltending and maybe even higher than the 4-star rating. And here, like with the Millionaires, a lot of will depend on the contribution of the rookies, because they have Leo Carlson, the third overall selection in this draft, and William Eklund, who might get a major role in the Sharks, or might be develop for another season given the expectations for the Sharks. But the Oilers, like I said in the beginning for the Norris, could definitely be a playoff team. It only depends on how many points they actually gain or lose in the divisional matchups, which will be one hell of a battle. So there might be one hell of a battle in terms of punching, but here is basically all fireworks in every category. So that's it. The season preview for another upcoming season done. Hopefully found it interesting and I didn't mess up something. I have no notes, by the way, and mostly speak in terms of I don't have all the stats in front of me. I mean, but I think I don't know how correct all of this will be in the end. We'll see. I don't do a follow-up video after each season. Maybe at least I have to check and see how my projections are doing. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you around. Bye bye.